Welcome to the Nursing Mother's Room, a podcast where we talk about all things motherhood. Whether you're rocking your baby to sleep, changing a dirty diaper, or hiding in the closet to just get a snack by yourself, I'm so glad you're here. I'm Regina, mom, wife, and your host. And today I have a special guest with us. I have Emily, also known on social media as Eczema Mama, here to share her journey with us. Emily is a stay-at-home mom of two, and most of her journey with eczema and allergies has come through caring for their son Logan. He has severe eczema and has had multiple life-threatening allergies. Along the way, they've faced several hospital stays, different health concerns, which pushed her to learn to advocate and stand for her child within the healthcare system. They've had to make big lifestyle changes, including moving out of a moldy home, navigating diet, and daily life with allergies. Through it all, she has leaned on her faith and found a passion for encouraging other moms who feel overwhelmed or alone in this journey to help them see the strength even through the hardest times. Welcome, Emily. Okay. All right. Well, Emily, I'm so excited to have you on today, and I am so grateful to have you just here sharing with us your story and your experience for you and your family. I know it's definitely a lot, and your son is 2 years old.
He'll be 2 this week, yeah.
Oh, how exciting. Happy birthday to him. I I was actually I was talking to my husband about some of your videos, and I was actually laughing because the first video that I had seen of yours on Instagram was the one where you were drinking a latte for the first time, and you like started crying because, it's like with having allergies and you stop breastfeeding, and how breastfeeding like affects your kids and stuff like that. And I was I really liked that video because I was like, I could relate to it in a sense because my son had bad reflux, things like that when he was born. And so he was on medicine for a good few months to try to help with that. But I didn't realize, and I don't think a lot of people realize, like from seeing that video, like yes, they can relate to it, but the severity of how extreme it was for you because it wasn't just some discomfort that you had to like stop dairy for the discomfort of your son's stomach. It's this major thing with your son having eczema.
Mhm.
I think it's it kind of sent me down the rabbit hole of going through your page and seeing all these things. And so I have just been fascinated with your story and seeing the healing journey for your son because I mean, I got brought in by this one video, but it was so captivating to see these other videos and to see how vulnerable you've been. And I have seen cases and people, who their kids have had eczema or people have had eczema and in adulthood and different things. But I think I have not seen a case that was as severe as your son's. And I think that for a lot of people, they probably, even if they have gone through certain things like that, I think that they, may not realize how severe it can get. So, um, so all of that to say, I would love to hear your story and I guess we can begin of like where the first signs of eczema started coming up for your son.
Yeah, that's so sweet. Yeah, it's so crazy, especially as a mom, you're watching your kid go through it. I think that's, you probably relate. You can't really do very much about it. Yeah, so Logan started first showing signs, just sensitive skin at birth, really,
Hmm.
which, he's my second. So I have a daughter who clear skin, nothing totally. He was just a roll of the dice, I guess. And so he was a natural home birth, came out, but just very sensitive skin. And my husband had the same. So just like what you think of eczema to be, like little cradle cap here on your
Hmm.
arm, and didn't think anything of it. And then 4 months rolled around and it just got progressively worse
Hmm.
and um, ended up getting like an infection on the side. So we were working with a pediatrician. You're trying to do all the things. We ended up going with, and I'm more holistic, more natural
Hmm.
minded. So when eczema came around, you just want to help your child and
Yeah.
fix best you
Mhm.
can. So we ended up doing topical antibiotics, oral antibiotics, progressively got worse and worse. His allergies started getting worse,
Mm.
where you're breastfeeding and he would just throw up, no reason. And you think it's like a virus, but then that was kind of early on, like 4 or 5 months. So we ended up finding a Facebook page who it was a natural holistic healing, and we started implementing things in their guide, and it was working just like topically.
Mhm.
And I felt hesitant to do more internal things, so we ended up working with a local integrative doctor, and
Mhm.
we're in North Carolina, and started doing things that were a little more like stronger herbs and things like that, and then
Mhm.
some prescription based stuff. And his skin started looking better,
Mhm.
but he just started looking more, started losing weight, looking a little more. I don't like using like more sickly, I guess you'd say.
Mhm.
And then he started throwing up, and that's kind of when the allergies really got bad. We were giving
Mhm.
him stuff that had uh, things that we didn't know at the time had his allergens, like nuts, coconut, things that I was eating, trying to broaden the diet and
Mhm.
get fats in and things. And his throwing up just started getting worse and worse.
Mhm.
So as a mom, you're just kind of stuck, like, okay, what do you do? And
Mhm.
when I say throwing up, I'm saying like projectile vomiting out of his nose and mouth. And when we brought it up to our doctor at the time, uh, she just kind of dismissed and would say, "Oh, so he's spitting up." I was like, "No, he's
Mhm.
projectile vomiting."
Mhm.
And that's kind of like when we got the taste, my husband and I, of just like advocating for your child and really being
Mhm.
like, "No, my child, this is something's wrong."
Mhm.
And after being dismissed there, we ended up going to our third pediatrician. Uh, and I was like, it was just the Holy Spirit, honestly. My husband was out of town, my mom was here, and um, I don't know what blood work means, like what
Mhm.
that even means to like draw blood and test. And I was like, hey, I just need um, you to draw blood. And she's like, so a CNP, like, let's just do that. And so
Mhm.
she was doing it. And because of his throwing up had progressed so much, my husband's out of the country. I get a call the next morning that's like, you need to get ER right now. Like, he is at risk of heart problems. He should be having a seizure right now. Like all this stuff because of the throwing up had progressed so much. So that was back last May, and it kind of became more than just eczema. And
Mhm.
he was so young that allergy isn't really labeled that young. Like he has allergies
Mhm.
5 months old. That's not very typical of someone
Mhm.
to like a doctor to say. So it was just a lot of like advocating, like, no, he throws up when I do this and eat this. So that was like our first taste of like his issues being more serious.
Mhm.
Um, so we were there. He was in ICU for about a week just to like get him stabilized and everything. We ended up working with several doctors, and just as like a mom and my husband and I just having, we've seen several different like GI allergy, and you're just trying to
Mhm.
and get to the root cause of like, we can't keep band-aiding this, like these things are going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been, sorry, I'm going like this tangent far.
No, you're good. You're good.
But yeah, so I guess like last year is when he was about 9 months old. We were able to find someone who would allergy test him, which was hard to find for that age.
Mhm.
And we were able to figure out the things that's kind of where the breastfeeding diet changed. He was about 9 months old, and we had tried formula, and it made his eczema worse. Um, and that's when the diet changed, and I started really getting down on like getting more strict, like things that a lot of people were recommending, nuts and dairy and all the things, and getting strict and narrowing in on that. Um, his skin started getting so much better, and we
Mhm.
just started doing more holistic with his skin treatments. And then we ended up finding he started improving, but his sodium levels were still bad, and he, in one like huge tell of like watching him, because they can't talk. Like that's what's so hard is
Yeah.
that they can't tell you what's going on inside. He was researching like what does low sodium, what does low albumin even mean? Like what's it feel like? And he would get really kind of lethargic. Like so that happened in May, the hospital, and then come the summertime, he was doing. We were just going through steroid, like oral steroid withdrawals, which
Mhm.
I don't know if you've seen like topical steroid withdrawals from people, but basically the skin just gets really inflamed. They call it the Redmond syndrome, where your body just goes in shock. And the same thing kind of happens with oral steroid withdrawals, which he had had in the hospital. So like last summer, it was just trying to keep his skin together, trying to
Mhm.
figure out how to keep it from getting infected. Um, and so end of summer, you know, we were in this older house and he started just looking kind of like he had looked in May, just sick, like off and lethargic. So I was like, I'm just going to take,
Mhm.
like, let's just take him, see if he looks like, if something's going on and we just don't know it. And we ended up taking him and his sodium levels kept going down. And so that's when you're really at risk of like seizures and they don't
Mhm.
know why it's going down. I mean, this was our second, we went to a different hospital because the first hospital and we just didn't get any answers. So we ended up going to another one, Duke. We were there for a week, didn't get any answers. There's no reason why his body was doing this or like why he was getting depleted of these things. Um, so that's kind of when we switched on a totally different provider. This is our fourth at this point, not including like specialists. And she was amazing. She was so great. She was um, had taken suggested taking mold more seriously, and
Mhm.
we really got strict on. That's when I went on a TED, which is a total elimination diet, where
Wow.
you start with like. So I started with just bison the first day, and then I added bok choy, and then I added parsnip. So you like slowly add, and you're able to kind of see what triggers, and then
Mhm.
feeding. It makes it a little more difficult because sometimes these triggers can come like 3 or 5 days after eating it. So you just have
Mhm.
to keep like a really strict calendar of like input output. But anyways, he started doing really good, and we ended up kind of going down the mold route of like getting our house fixed. But you don't know what you don't know, and we ended up kind of doing what we thought was the right way, just allergy, like ripping up carpet, new ductwork, new HVAC, taking out loan, just doing all the things we thought were right. Moved back in, he was doing a little bit better. And we were kind of working with two providers at the time. And we never tested our house for mold at this point, but
Mhm.
he was getting better. And we're like, this is great. And then in December, he went anaphylactic with peas, like green peas, little tiny typical peas, and introducing that to him. And yeah, I went full on anaphylactic. And that's kind of when his skin, I think probably in the more recent videos of like people seeing him, that was like
Mhm.
a lot of what we were dealing with is just him when you're living in molds. Sometimes, the eczema can get better and then we're healing, and then other issues can come up, like food allergies, which
Mhm.
in our case.
Yeah.
So it's just been like a long journey of advocating, figuring out, and with him being 2 years old, we've had a lot of in betweens of just he because of the food aversion, like because of the throwing up, he didn't want to eat. He didn't know
Mm.
normal. So he's like a
Yeah.
year old and he only wants the breast, and
Mm.
having to do speech therapy just to get him comfortable with like touching food, not even like it getting near his mouth, just touching. He didn't want to look at
Mhm.
it near him. So he's had a lot of just like setbacks with that. We're currently in
Yeah.
PE because he was covered in eczema. Um,
Mhm.
he didn't ever crawl or walk. He doesn't walk. Um, and then we'll be doing speech therapy. But God's been so good. I feel like that his journey he's been through so much in his life and so
Yeah.
just like pain and hurt. And God's been
Mhm.
so good. And just like the series of events with his skin and being in and out of the hospital and like the Holy Spirit, like little things like me just saying, "Hey, can you just do blood work?" Like I
Hmm.
don't know what that means, or like
Yeah.
family members being like, "He seems kind of off. Like, why don't you take him in?" Like, and he was off. Like he was at
Hmm.
critical spot. So God has just been so good. And when you have an open wound, like it is so serious that you can
Yeah.
get infection, you can get staph, MRSA, and all these things that can be life threatening. And
Hmm.
people get a scratch and they get this infection and they pass away. It's just, and his skin has been open for so long, and God's just protected him. And I think like my
Hmm.
husband and I look back on pictures, and I think for someone who hasn't had a child, it's like, wow, their skin is so bad. But that was so normal for us, so long. Like it was just low
Hmm.
eczema on him. My
Yeah.
daughter who's 3, it was just low. Like he has his eczema and
Hmm.
it's so God's been so good and just protecting him and us being able to figure out the like triggers and things. And um, everyone's journey is so different too. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's been
Well,
fun.
yeah, definitely. No, I love that, that you're saying that like, the Holy Spirit was really leading you into certain things. And sometimes it's like, I know for myself that there were nights where my son, he was just like we had times for him that he was just like crying and he cried for like 3 hours straight and he didn't do that. And people are trying to tell me, oh, he's just colic, he's just this. And I'm like, no, but I know my son, he's not just like this. And he was only about 2 months at the time, and he was just crying constantly. And I'm sitting there and I'm crying out to the Lord. I'm like, what is going on? I don't know what's going on. And I spoke to a family friend of ours who's one of our pastors, and I was telling her, I was like, I don't know what's going on. I've tried everything. I don't think it's gas. I don't think it's this. I was like, but I'm at the point where I'm gonna have to take him in, to the ER because I don't know what's going on with him. I was like, he won't eat, all these like different things. And she was like, he's really young. She's like, but he could be teething. And I had talked to other moms and they're like, no, he's way too young. He's not teething, all this stuff. And then I went and I was like, you know what? We're just gonna try something. We're just gonna try to see if it's anything. Bought all the teething stuff, bought everything, and put Orajel just barely on his gums, and instantly he was like better.
No
And
way.
I was like literally sobbing that like the Orajel
Oh,
costs $5,
yeah.
and it's like because my son can't talk, he can't communicate, you know what I mean? He's crying, he's communicating that something's wrong. And so even in that, it was like I just started to realize that like I needed to be that I was fully believing that the Lord was putting other moms and women in my life who
Mhm.
have had more experience, who have gone through different things, who have, walked through different journeys, and that one, I was to lean on them, but also to know that, like, hey, like, I know my son, the Lord has given me, motherly instincts to know my son, and I know that something's wrong. I wasn't just going to pass it off as colic.
Mhm.
And so once we figured that out, we were able to start going from there. And my son is 15, 16 months now, and he has everything except for his 2-year-old molars. He started
Wow,
getting his teeth back to back, like right after that.
that's
So he had
crazy.
a full mouth, of teeth, like by like 9 months, so it was crazy. But, and everybody's like, oh, that's so early, all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but like people were trying to say, like, oh, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Like he's
Yeah.
way too young. And it's like, no, there are these things that like happen that
Mhm.
not every child is going to be at the same pace as other children. And
Mhm.
so I have really been at this place of really like knowing that like, okay, I need to be that voice. I need to advocate for my kids, but I also know that I have the Holy Spirit with me as well to
Mhm.
help guide me in those things too, of like, okay, even if doctors or people are telling me this, that, and the other, what is the
Mhm.
Holy Spirit leading me to? I think that that's always like the biggest key is just leaning on the Holy Spirit, not leaning on our own understanding. And I think that it's such an amazing thing that you're able to recognize that too, that like, hey, this isn't just me. This that I'm getting, this thought, this probably is the Holy Spirit, and really running with that. Not only is it, you've gone through, the trenches of different things, but now starting to be on the other side of that and
Mhm.
seeing how, I mean, we could sit and be like, woe is me, why me? Like you think of Job in the Bible and all these things happening and literally the physical stuff and the sores and all the stuff that happened to him, and it's like, why don't you just sit and curse God? Why don't you just sit and like be in your emotions and what you're feeling, like, hey, what the heck, And I think it's just the testimony of that strength and, that faith, I think is not only um has not only been, something for you, but I think it is going to be something for your kids and for Logan to know in the future of like, hey, we fought hard. We fought hard, and though it has been hard, like the Lord has brought us through, and He's
Mhm.
been with you every step of the way. He's going to continue to be with you every step of the way, And I think that it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Yeah, I love it. I really love it.
It's it's so true. Like I feel like very much. I think one thing my husband is really back too, because that question gets asked like a lot. Why does he have this? Like,
Mhm.
why is this happening?
Mhm.
You're so young and healthy, and
Mhm.
ultimately, I think like the core, if you get really deep and if you're a believer, like it's because of this world. It's the sin of this world, and it's just showing up. Like, and I just, um, I hate that and it hurts, but I know, God has been so faithful and so kind, and
Mhm.
He's kept my husband and I together in something that was just like the hardest thing in marriage. And
Yeah.
it's truly brought me to my knees. And
Mhm.
like my daughter had snapped a photo. She's 3 and she's just learning how to take photos. And it was a really dark time. And we had just sold our house, rehomed our dog. We're in an apartment. And I just remember, you don't have a lot of time to like sit in the gospel and read, but you like play music or worship music. She was taking a picture, and I am like happy and smiling. My son Logan is like skin is bleeding and cracking, and I have zinc cream on it, and I'm holding him, and I was smiling and beaming and happy. And I remember being so happy that day, and like just being grateful to be with my kid and being on the couch. And that I look at that and I'm like, that's not like I look at that and I want to cry at myself because it just looks sad, but I like see the Holy Spirit and that's nothing else. Like there's
Mhm.
no reason I should have a smile on my face other than the Holy Spirit, like and his goodness on our family and our situation. Like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that we would have been able to get through something like this without having him there comforting us and guiding us. So
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. I think too of like, you have these moments where, you just feel the Holy Spirit or you just feel that peace and it literally is like beyond your understanding, And I think that it's those moments that really like keep us like pushing through, that keep you like that give you that like refresh, that kind of give you
mm,
that hope again of like, okay, we're on the right track. We're doing this together. Um I I literally, I showed my husband the one video. I don't remember if it was on your story or a full video where Logan was like sitting and like scratching, and he has like his gloves on and stuff, and he's like trying to like itch, like I think at his arms or something. And I remember just sitting there and I was just crying because I'm like, I can't imagine those moments of like in the middle of the night, like sleepless
mm,
nights being with your son and like trying to do everything you can to comfort and like as a mom of like we want to protect our kids, we want to help our kids, we want to do whatever it takes, like like my son had gotten pretty sick for like a couple weeks, and he was just crying and he was just in pain and he wasn't eating, and I wish that I could have taken it from him. I
mm,
wish that it could have been me that had that instead of him, and I just I see those moments and stuff, and then I see, you guys like being happy, or him like now, like him with his arms out, in the car driving, like feeling the air for the first time just brought me to tears because I'm like, what an amazing testimony. How amazing that, like, yes, there are those nights. Yes, there were those like that pain. Yes, there are those things that like you're still going through. But to see just already how far you guys have come and how far the Lord has brought you. I mean, it's beautiful. And I think even just in that there are so many people that need to see that. And it's
mm,
like, I always like some people even criticize people for, filming themselves crying on social media and different things and stuff. But it's like, no, we really do need these like real moments to see that, like, okay, social media is not perfect. Not everybody is perfect. Not every, there are real people going through these things. And there are so many people who, from other parts of the world or parts of the country that like that video may change the directory of their lives.
Mhm.
Seeing those things, or somebody could be going through the exact same thing and they just happen to come across one of your videos and they're able to see that, okay, maybe there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Maybe there is, a way to get out of this. Maybe there is hope that like my kids won't go through this forever, and so
Mhm.
I think it's beautiful, but it just breaks my heart too when I like see those videos of like thinking of those things and like, how lonely that must have felt too to be in those situations, and that's why like my heart has been for this podcast is to connect like other moms and other people because again, like we need each other. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And it's like now with the technology and stuff that we have too, it's like it's so easy to be connected. So I tell my husband all the time, like I don't hold grudges, but I was really hurt when certain people who had been a part of my life who didn't reach out when I had my son, who didn't
Mhm.
reach out when they knew that I was in the hospital for an extra week and our son was under like therapy for jaundice and all these like different things and people who have still never reached out, and I know people get busy and people have lives and all these, they have all these like things going on, but I'm like it doesn't take much to send a text,
Yeah.
or to just be like, hey, I'm thinking of you. Hey,
Mhm.
you're not alone, or hey, how's it going, type thing.
Yeah.
And so I see I see where the Lord is like putting people and situations in my life that I feel like are meant for a greater purpose. And that's why like reaching out to you and getting your story, I think has been so crucial too. Because again, like I never would have thought in a million years that eczema could be as serious as how it's been for your son. And
Yeah.
how thinking of even just like the food
I didn't
and
either. So.
just yeah, you know what I mean? And so, but that's why I think it's so important. Like again, people are like ignorance is bliss, but like now that you know, now it's
Mhm.
something to be mindful of. Now, even if I'm in a conversation with somebody else and they're like, "Oh yeah, my kid's going through this," it'd be like, "Oh hey, connect, follow
Mhm.
Emily." Like, if you need tips, if you need different things and stuff, like I just, it's it's a wild thing to be a mom and motherhood and just all the different challenges and situations that we come across. And that's why, like, even seeing that you have to like cut out food and different things, like it seems so insignificant at times. Like I think about it, like I can eat a piece of cheese and I'm fine. My son just
Yeah.
devoured a whole like thing of cheddar cheese right now, before he went to take his nap. And it's like even in those situations, I feel like for me, it can be something that's so taken for granted. But like in your case, something like that for your son could be life altering.
Yeah. It's crazy. And I feel like, um, we're in a season, life has been consumed by my son's health in every aspect of life,
Mm,
you know, environment and food and all the things, uh, where we're getting a little more freedom. And, we went to the zoo on Saturday. So that seems like such a normal weekend thing, but with eczema in the summer or even in the winter, it's just hard because if you sweat, it can flare them up and get more itchy, and then it's just fighting in public. Um, Same thing for like food, being close to things. He has some airborne food allergies. But we went on Saturday, and it was like Christmas, experiencing just what you would have like a normal Saturday with
hmm
your family. It's just like I'm so grateful to have that. Like, I mean, I might cry like the day we all go to a restaurant. It just simple things like that. I'm so grateful for him to be able to experience life and like it not be consumed by eczema. Like God's given us such. He's been so good to us. So yeah, it's I never knew anything about eczema before this, and so much.
Yeah. So how do you in these situations not become overcome with fear? because for me, I'm a no shoes in the house type person,
Yeah.
and I like lose it if somebody comes further than the front
You
door
can
with
come to
their
my
shoes
house
on.
then. We
You
have
know what I
no
mean?
shoes. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
because for me, when we were at so we just moved into a house, um, which that whole story was crazy by the grace of God, and we live next door to my parents now, which is a blessing in itself.
Oh, so
But
sweet.
we were in an apartment and we had been there for not even a week, and there was flooding from the sprinkler system from the third floor
Oh
that
my God.
flooded all the way down to our apartment. And it flooded our entire master
Oh,
bedroom, our closet, all of our clothes got soaked and all of that. And it was just crazy. And I was home and I was with my son. He was around 9 months, I think, at that time, and it was just insane, and it was just all kinds of craziness from there. And then we went through probably about 2 months of them contractors coming trying to redo the carpets, and they had to redo the walls and the doors and just all these different things. And my biggest fear was mold. My
yeah.
biggest fear was the mold from all of that. Nobody cared, nobody listened to me, nobody anything. And so, come like a couple weeks later and stuff, and they're bringing in fans, they're doing stuff. They have the workers coming in and out with their shoes, all these different things. And I'm like literally like going out of my mind. My son's 9 months old. He literally licks the floor. So I'm like,
Oh,
very careful with like where he's at and what he's doing. And so it was just a nightmare. It was a literal nightmare. And I've just been so cautious because then we had like there were ants in the apartment, but like we never left food out, we never anything. And there was just ants just all over. We'd call the exterminators to come in, they'd come and spray, and then nothing. And then it was just like it would just get worse. And so I'm just like, this is literally insane. So we were dealing with ants, we were dealing with bugs, we were dealing with my son started to get sick. He started having respiratory issues. He started to
mm,
have all these things that started coming up. And next thing you know, I'm like, we probably have mold somewhere. We probably have black mold
mm,
hidden somewhere because he started getting sick. I started getting sick. And then it was just this constant cycle. We would have a couple days of feeling okay, and then we'd get hit with something again. And so we were like, we need to get out of here. And so we were praying about it, all these things. And so then we ended up being able to get into the house that we're in now, which is, a miracle. But I
yeah.
think about all those things and I'm like, since then, I'm very much now like, no shoes in the house. We steam the floors like once a week. We do all these things. Like, and so I can become very obsessive with certain things like that and thinking, okay, because there was, I think, even a cricket or something that was in like by my son's room, and I almost lost it because I was like, where the heck did this come from?
Wow.
What, who could have let it in? What? And I just think that like I have to, even for those things, put myself in check of, okay, I'm not going to be
Mhm.
led by fear. My son's going to be okay in his room,
Yeah.
like, all these different things. And so I can't imagine being in your shoes and needing to like have to worry about even just the littlest things.
Oh, yeah. Well, counseling. I definitely have to do this.
Yeah.
Like, all
That's
um,
good.
no, I mean, it is. I think, yeah, I can't go down the mold train. That is like a whole other episode, I feel like, just
Hmm.
all the things. But yeah, it is fear. I mean, it's like there's a lot of fear, and there has been a lot of fear with things. And I think it's ultimately like getting, my husband is so grounding to me. I'm so grateful to have him. But just, in those moments, ultimately like giving it to God and who's in control, with my son's health, like, you know, it is hard to not want to control every aspect because
Hmm.
the more the more fears you can have, and just intrusive thoughts, like, you know, dealing with postpartum and you have all these emotions and hormones and then those thoughts come into your head, like
Yeah.
going places and, he's not in school. And to some degree, like I do, we don't send him to daycare. We just
Hmm.
started sending him back to like church um, daycare. But I mean, I was literally in church yesterday holding my husband's hand, or I was sitting there and I kept checking my phone. I was just like, because you're so used to having the call, like,
Hmm.
especially with him, his face swells up, his eyes start getting
Hmm.
itchy, he throws up, like his signs for anaphylaxis and stuff. And it's pretty normal. I've gotten the calls and the texts so regularly, it's hard not to keep checking. So So it is just one of those things where I just have to keep in check and ultimately like we give it to God because it's ultimate and He's the protector and the caregiver, and I'm not. Like, I can buy all the creams and all the supplements, and ultimately it's God. I mean, that's who's healed my son. I can't point it to one thing or one diet change or anything. It's just it's God. So
Yeah. No, I love that. I think it's definitely has to be God because, I went through postpartum anxiety like really bad. Like I think I didn't sleep for almost like 2 days because I was just like holding my son. I like didn't want to put him down. And my husband was like, you need to try to get some sleep. Like you're not doing yourself good. You're not doing the baby good. And I just remember those moments to where I just was physically like, okay, my son is gonna be safest in my arms. You can't put him down.
yeah,
And I had to get to the point to where I was like, okay, I know that the Lord has trusted me to be his mom, but the Lord loves my son more than I do. And he wants the best for my son. And he is the ultimate father, the ultimate caregiver. And I need to trust him that when I put my baby down, and after seeing all these videos and all these things of, SIDS and all, these crazy things that can happen, um, I had to trust. And it's those little steps, those little steps like that you're gonna trust, you're gonna be okay. And my son also has started to finally go into children's church because I'm the marketing director and I run the photography team and the video and all that. And so on Sundays, like for yesterday, our social media person, she actually was sick, so she wasn't going to be there. And so I was like, okay, we're gonna have to go to class today because mama has to work, and I had to put him in there, and drop off is always the hardest. Like he's literally yanking at my shirt, like he doesn't want me to leave. And so I try to give him a few minutes. I'm like, if he's still crying in 10 minutes, call me and I'll come get him. And thankfully he was good. Kept checking my phone the whole time too, of like, is he okay? And wondering and freaking out and internally
wow,
like, okay, is everything good? And he stayed the whole service and he did great. And we're
amazing. That's such
it
a
was
huge win. I feel
it
like as a
really
mom,
is.
any problems are not like leaving your child and trusting your child with someone
Hmm.
else.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, especially if you're their caretaker 24/7.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
big deal.
It really is. And so I just, so I feel that of like really starting to like trust that like, okay, my son's going to be taken care of. He's going to be good. And I think that that's key is just keeping all that in check.
Yeah, that's I feel like just for a mom to be able to like when you entrust your child with someone else, that's a big deal. I mean,
Hmm.
that's after I watched kids before having kids
Yeah.
and after having kids. It is a big deal, you know? So
Hmm. Yeah, it definitely is. So do you guys plan on having more kids?
we loved it.
Yeah.
I love being I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like we were so sleep deprived and it was just about like just tired. Hope we have another one. This is fun. Like yeah, and you in a situation like this, you have to be fun. Like you have to make jokes and make the heart of really hard days and stuff
Hmm.
like that. But there was a day where Andrew and I we were watching my nieces and nephews, and I think we had 6 kids total. And Logan was still like in a bad place. And it was just fun, like
Hmm.
having a living room full of kids and they're
Hmm.
playing. And they're just, I don't know, like I just I love kids. And it's like, okay, we could probably have 6. What do you think, babe? And he's like, not if half of them are like Logan. There's no way.
Hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, we would love to. I think, yeah, I think we were just kind of in and out of a season where like we had to like how much could we handle,
Hmm.
handle capacity wise. And I think one of the hardest things was not being able to give my daughter the attention she needed.
Hmm.
Logan needed so much. So our main focus has just been nurturing what we have now. But we'd love to grow. I love
Yeah.
being I love
Hmm.
being a mom with my husband. Like it's just like you just get to see your spouse and your child, and
Hmm.
it's so fun to watch them discover
Yeah.
and be able to be there.
Yeah.
And also, it's just like taught me more of the gospel,
Hmm.
especially with just Logan's experience, I I'm trying like understanding God's love for us and what it actually is,
Yeah.
um, and then being from a point of view where like when Logan's been suffering and God had to watch his son suffer like that. Like
Hmm.
I've never felt more of as much as I could. I mean, I know his feelings more than that, but yeah, it's just
Yeah. No, I love that. Do you well, because you kind of mentioned, does your husband have eczema, or that he's dealt with
we
it?
had like cradle cap a little bit. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
what I thought,
Yeah.
little bit as a baby, and he has
Mm-hmm.
seasonal allergies,
Uh-huh.
um, but I wouldn't control
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So do you feel like it's like for Logan, do you feel like it was just something that just happened? Was there like in a sense, now obviously I'm not blaming you or anything, but I'm like, but that if there was something that like, had you cut out dairy while you were pregnant, that this
mhm.
would have could have been different? Or, was there something for that? Was there like a way to kind of figure out kind of like a source for this, or is it just kind of like it happened and this is where we're at with it?
I mean, um, yeah, I think it's one of those things where you're constantly what, what is, what's the root cause? And, I have always been a very healthy person and have loved
Mm-hmm.
health. And it's hard because even before this, like I've had two kids. So I think it would be different if he was my one and only, I think I would be
Mm-hmm.
connected. My daughter, there's nothing,
Mm-hmm.
so, um, great pregnancy, nothing. I think it's genetics. I think it's environment. I think there's so many factors. I don't think that it's just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't attribute everything to mold or like
Mm-hmm.
everything to food allergies. I just think
Mm-hmm.
we had a lot going up against it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have food sensitivities, so I mean I was gluten and dairy free for
Uh-huh.
10 years, and
Mm-hmm.
my husband had environmental. You know what, Logan kind of a little bit of both of us. So
Mm-hmm.
just yeah, there's so many factors that go into it. I don't think that there's one thing that
Yeah.
gave him this. Everyone's cause is so different.
Mm-hmm.
Someone just removes dairy and it's totally clear and nothing happens. And
Mm-hmm.
I can say that we have quite literally
Yeah.
positive. Um, and we still have eczema. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's crazy to think about it because I'm originally from California and I've never dealt with allergies like in my life. And then I come out to Texas and then it's like, you get hay fever and all this stuff, you know what I mean? And it like it had been so bad over this past summer and I was like, what in the heck is going on? And it's so crazy that literally something like the environment of literally where you live can affect that. Like the humidity, the heat, like
mm,
all of that can affect so many different things. And so, I actually take these pills. They're like actual like homeopathic, but they're like actually designed Texas allergy pills for
no
Texas
way.
allergies of like the pollen and all that and stuff
Yeah,
that's here. And so it's like crazy. Like that's something that I never would have thought about. Never would
yeah,
have even like considered needing ever. And so now having to do that, I'm like, okay, this is new, and it's
yeah.
not fun. It's not anything, but it's true that it's like, the environment and just where you're at can like cause so many different things. It can, either be more beneficial or, kind of be like frustrating and stuff too. So I can't imagine. But yeah, I just think too, like when, something like this happens, like some people, obviously people who are a little more ignorant to, understanding like what this is and causes and stuff, it's kind of like, oh, well, just, kind of like what you were doing of cutting food out, just cut things out that, can cause these allergies. And it's like, well, we've done that. So now what, And um, so yeah, I think it's good to know that too, because again, it's not that it's anybody's fault. It's not that there's, you've done something wrong, like you didn't do anything wrong as a mom, and it's not something even, like you said, even for genetics. How are you to know that you and your husband, your genetics coming together can, cause these like different things? And it's
And then I would have like a daughter who has nothing, and then Logan.
mhm,
It truly is. Yeah.
I think that
So,
that's crazy too, is like, one pregnancy, one child can be completely different than the other. And it's like, I'm pregnant with our second child and it's already felt completely different from the first one. And it's been great at the same time, but it's also like, okay, I thought that I kind of knew something and now I'm knocked on my butt again and I know absolutely nothing, So it's I think it's the biggest thing that I have said since I got pregnant with my son was that pregnancy and motherhood is not a one size fits all,
mhm,
and it'll never be, the same blueprint for all these like different things. I mean, even for prenatals and stuff. I had been
mhm,
seeing doing more research that like some women that I knew, they were having miscarriages because they had the folic acid in theirs
mhm,
and they have that like they have this like genetic thing to where they can't process it. And so they need folate instead of folic acid. But when you go to get prenatals and when you go to the doctors, they tell you to take folic acid. But I'm like, you would think by now it would even be a thing of just checking of like, hey, why don't we just play on the safe side? Why don't you take something a little more natural instead of this and that? And so it's a whole other topic, but it's definitely like even for something so small like that,
mhm.
blows my mind that it can be beneficial for one person and not great for somebody else. So,
Oh yeah, 100%.
yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, so for our viewers at home, we do a segment called Real Talk to where we'll
Mhm.
watch a reel and we share and kind of like have a conversation based on that. And so for the viewers at home, I'll play the video separately, add that video in. Based on that video, what are your initial thoughts?
Um, yes, I watched it and I think first was just like I'm so happy for her and
Hmm.
being just a healthy baby and um, being able to not have eczema or allergies or anything like that. And then I think there's like for watching it coming from a mom who has done everything, like had the carbon copy, did all the things, had a perfect birth, no complications and all that stuff. Like, and then to have a child like that, I think ultimately as a believer, it's not in our control. And I would love to think that it was in my control,
Hmm.
that you have a healthy baby and I have one with eczema. But like ultimately, like I guess watching it as a Christian, I can do nothing. You know, ultimately it's God and keeping my baby healthier if he has
Hmm.
eczema. But
Hmm.
and I think as a mom to um, watching it and being, we have the power to uplift and encourage, and I think that's like one of the main. I don't share a lot of like treatment wise, like what we do with my son, health decisions, whether we've medically given him things that we've done. Just because I think everyone's story is so different
Hmm.
and unique, but ultimately, like you are a mom and you're going through something hard in the same
Hmm.
way. Like I just think we can encourage and uplift.
Hmm.
And so I think initially watching it, I was like a little hurt.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
how
I
about you?
think from watching that video and reading some of the comments, a lot of people I think were like, hey, this is kind of tone deaf. Like this is like not understanding for other people. And it's kind of, in a sense of being like, oh, well, yeah, my kid's great because I didn't do this, that, and the other. And I think that there are so many different factors that go into things like that. And again, I mean, some people in the comments, this is not to start this conversation at all, but a lot of people were saying that it's because of not getting your kids vaccinated or different things. And I know that that's a very touchy subject for so many different people. It's really hard to see when people are trying to blame certain things. And I do understand that there are causes for different things, but I think that again, just a video like that initially, it's really hard to see because it's just being like, hey, look at me, I'm great. I did everything right.
Yeah, and you're taking credit for it. Like I created a healthy baby. Like I did
Mm-hmm.
this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's definitely it's hard sometimes to watch certain things like that, or that's why again I think that social media can be so misleading, because again we see people just posting their perfect moments, and they post just the perfect face and the perfect family and all these different things, and it's not this thing that, like, yeah, I don't, it's probably not the best thing to just post your family fighting 24/7, or
Mhm,
to just show all the worst parts, but I think that there is an element that we lose of just being able to connect with people and to be able to be real when we try to post certain things like that, and being like, oh, hey, I did everything right. I did everything perfect. My kid's great. And like,
mhm.
if your kid is not, it's because you didn't follow this. Or it's
Yeah.
because if you did this, that, and the other, that this is why you're going through that. And so
Yeah.
it's like it sucks on the one hand, because it's like, in a sense, it's trying to be like, yes, I'm doing things, holistically or naturally, or, this, that, and the other. But then at the same time, you're also saying that, like, hey, if you're not doing this, you're
Mhm.
what's wrong. You suck, and your kids are going through this, that, and the other because of you. And so it's like, I think sometimes people don't realize like how much influence that they have,
Mhm.
how much their, like, opinions even, like, can just affect people.
Mhm.
And, like, yeah, like, I could see that video, I could just scroll past it, not pay any mind to it. But it's also, again, like, there can be moms who are going through different things, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like, I suck. I
Mhm.
suck because I did this," or "I suck because I didn't do this right." And I think it's just so crucial even, and, like, as a believer and stuff too, protecting what we put in front of our eyes and our ears. Because
Mhm.
again, I'm like, I can watch videos like that or different things, and it caused so much fear.
Yeah.
I'm pregnant in the first trimester, and everything I'm getting on Instagram is people having miscarriages, and people in different situations like that, and I'm like, I'm having to be careful of what I'm feeding myself, because again, I don't need to be filled with that fear. Like, I'm
Uh-huh.
believing for a healthy pregnancy, I'm believing for my baby, to be born healthy and all these different things, and I'm going to stand on that. And
Mhm.
so in that, that's why I also need to be filling myself with the word as well, and maybe get off social media and not be on it as much, but
So hard. Such
but
a
it
balance.
but it is, like, it's so crazy because social media can be such a tool, and it can be so helpful for people, and I just think that,
Mhm.
like, videos like that, it makes me so sad to see, because again, for people who aren't strong enough, for people who are struggling in certain situations, like, how is that affecting them? And I think that we as people and creators, and especially those who are like high influencers and mom influencers and all these things, I think that we need to be more mindful of that, and
Mhm.
um so yeah, so that video
It is
was.
such it is such a like an intimacy too. Like, you said that like being able to handle it. Like I don't think I would have been able to handle what I've experienced social media wise last year. Like
Mm,
I don't think I would have been strong enough. And
mm,
I started this account to love on moms where I didn't feel loved and supported, and where I felt love, from the Holy Spirit, and I just wanted to bring connection and
mhm,
take away the loneliness.
mhm,
And it has been such a gift for me to have been, loved on and prayed over from strangers. And
mm,
there's so much hard and negativity. And my husband's been so encouraging, like the way, like a video like that. If I had shown you, like, that's not life giving. You,
mhm,
you just don't engage with it. It's not worth it,
yeah,
to for me to go on a 2-page tangent in the comments or something of how we
mhm,
feel when, yeah. So I feel like social media, you definitely have to pick and choose
yeah,
things, and it can be so life giving. And I never knew the community aspect that it could give. Like
mhm,
even as mothers, being able to connect in a way over DMs and stuff, just sharing such an intimate part of your life
yeah,
that is painful, and the Holy Spirit can connect and pray, like you can pray together. Um,
mhm,
so yeah, it's one of those things where it's such a balance.
yeah, definitely. Well, I am very thankful that you were able to hop on here with me and to share your
Yeah.
story. And, would love to have you on here in the future, because I think that there's so many things we could talk about and we could just continue this all day
Multiple.
long. But I know you have your kiddos to attend to, and my son, I think, just woke up from his nap. So it's gonna
Yeah,
be
you're
gonna
so
be a
sweet.
fun
Thank
day.
you so much for having me. This was so great. I really appreciate what you did.
Of course. I'm so thankful to have you, and we will definitely talk soon. Thank you for tuning in to today's podcast. If you had any part of the story that resonated with you, please reach out to us and let us know, whether on social media or through email. And we will see you here next time in the Nursing Mother's Room.